Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hey everybody, how are you? And welcome to the Behavioral Corner. It's me again, Steve Martirano, the only person that I know of who actually sort of gets to hang out on a street corner and make it worth his while. I mean, most people are killing time. I'm out here on the Behavioral Corner hoping I run into interesting people who might shed some light on some important issues for us concerning our behavioral health. And you know what? I'm extraordinarily lucky. They keep dropping by. It's just amazing. And this edition of the Behavioral Corner is no different than the others. I hope we got some good stuff for you. It's all brought to you by our underwriter partners, Retreat Behavioral Health, about which more a bit later. Well, here we are. We've sort of, when you hear this on the podcast, we have rounded the corner into the holiday season, or as Andy Williams is fond of reminding us every 30 seconds, the most wonderful time of the year. Well, yes and no. We're going to talk about home for the holidays, which it should come as no surprise to anybody is both joyful and potentially stress-inducing. Holidays are difficult. A lot of demands, a lot of expectations, sometimes disappointments. Tough. Takes a pro to handle the holidays. That's what I always say. If you were to add to this situation, which you all experience, a history of substance abuse, and then recovery on top of it all, the effort to recover from substance abuse, it can be a toxic stew, no matter how wonderful a time of the year it is. So we went out, we got ourselves some people who have been there and done that to tell us what their experience has been going home for the holidays while dealing with both substance abuse initially and then recovery. To that end, we want to welcome Gloria Gallagher. Hi, Gloria.
Hi there, Steve. How are you? It's great to be here.
Good. I'm good. Nice for you to spend some time with us. I know it's an interesting weekend. They were doing this right after Thanksgiving, so I've intruded upon some of their long weekends. And Renny Affoumado joins us. That's Renny up there. He's the one with the beard. If you're watching this thing on YouTube, Renny joins us from Retreat Behavioral Health, where he works, and we'll find out about that. Combined, these two folks represent almost 40 years of sobriety. We're going to find out their backstories right now. So, Gloria, why don't we begin with you? You have the lion's share of this sobriety. You have been sober for how long now?
32 years. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have 32 years.
That's remarkable. It's the thing we don't talk often enough about, is that there are millions of people in long-term sobriety. So congratulations for you.
Thank you.
Tell us about yourself, Gloria. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Well, I'm originally from Hershey, PA. I was born to a blue collar, working class Italian American family. My mother was a teenage mother. She had me when she was 15, and so we lived with my grandparents for the first couple years, and then she got married and married my adopted father. And I've always been very close to my grandparents. However, I, like many other, when I hit adolescence, I just had a lot of issues that I had never dealt with. And I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And it just so happens that I found that in drugs and alcohol.
Mm. How early on did that happen for you?
Oh, I probably first discovered alcohol as early as 6 or 7. And I was smoking pot at like 11 and 12. I had taken a school trip to New York City, and I got the New York City bug, and I actually ran away from home and discovered all sorts of harder drugs, cocaine and heroin. and I was introduced that way at the age of 15. Started getting in trouble very early. I stole a car. I ended up in institutions. I was incarcerated, several times before I was 18. And so, yeah, I was
The
really
real deal.
into the lifestyle. Yes.
Yeah. And you ran the gamut of substance abuse, from alcohol to like the whole menu.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Renny, how about you? What's the situation? By the way, I say this all the time. All stories of substance abuse and recovery are the same, except they're different. And it's proven every time. Renny, what about you?
So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in New York City, downtown Manhattan, a family of three brothers. My two older brothers are a lot older than me, 8 and 11 years. Very loving family. My parents just celebrated 60 years of marriage. So there was a lot of love in the family, but that didn't matter. My older brothers kind of paved the way for me a little bit. I started smoking pot at a very young age, probably 8 or 9 years old. It was the first time I smoked. And then I started drinking alcohol, beer primarily, if not some hard liquor, around 11 or 12, because that's what my friends were doing. I hung out with a lot of older people, skateboarding through New York City, hanging out and not going to school. I mean, the first time I got left back was in 4th grade. So it was around the same time I started smoking pot. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun until it wasn't. And, I did get in a lot of trouble, but I'd never had really any big consequences until eventually I did. So, that's kind of the backstory there.
Yeah, I'm always struck by, I'm no longer struck, I should say, by the ages. I mean, the first time somebody told me they were blackout drinking and they were, 10, I was stunned, but no more. I mean, that's a pretty standard age. You mentioned your brothers being a sort of negative role model for you, Renny, but Gloria, and both of you, with regard to your family, was there any history of substance abuse in the families that you were aware of, Gloria?
Yes. The women in my family like to drink alcohol predominantly. My mother used substances. We have mental health that goes back as probably generations. I never realized that until I was much, later into recovery, and I could identify the symptoms that I was observing. But yes, I would say mental health, substance use. My mother used to want to stay under a certain weight, so she would use diet pills and speed and smoke marijuana. And by all outside appearances, no one would have ever known that. But, it was a much different story inside of our home.
Renny, were your brothers similarly abusing substances?
So one of my brothers actually moved away when I was pretty young. He went to the West Coast. And the other brother that I had, my father and him, they drank and they used marijuana. And they're artists, they're musicians. It's kind of the thing. And growing up in the late 70s and early 80s, that's what was going on, especially down in the village, So it was commonplace. Our friends were doing it. My friends were doing it at a young age. So it wasn't like it was out of the norm, but it did affect our lives for sure.
Yeah, that's what I said when I say I was only being half facetious when I said all these stories are alike, but they're different. One of the hallmarks of the similarities is that the substance abuser winds up either consciously or unconsciously putting themselves in a place where the behavior seems normal, right? You sort of find yourself gravitating towards like-minded people. We're all doing the same thing. It can't be bad. And you're right. If you grow up, Renny, in the right moment or the wrong moment, and society, wide says, well, it's okay. He's just smoking pot. It can just seem normal until, as you say, it's no longer normal. So let's before we get into back in the house for the holidays. How many times in treatment for you, Gloria, overall?
I was in 3 times, two of which were long-term treatment facilities, over 6 months each.
And
Incarcerated several times before that.
Yeah.
So for me, I was in inpatient facility once. I was in multiple outpatient facilities over many, many years, which never seemed to work for me.
So it's safe to say that both of you put an enormous amount of stress and anxiety, not only on yourself, but on your families. They were aware of what you were going through. To the extent they could help you, I guess they did, but they certainly knew what was happening in your life. So let's get to what we're really here to talk about. It's that time of the year. People get together, families gather. Gloria, take a moment, and if you can you recall those first few times when you were still actively using? Were you engaged in the family, or were you estranged completely?
I was mostly estranged. I had 2 much younger siblings at home, and I left home. I dropped out of school early in the 10th grade, never to go back. I ended up getting my GED while I was incarcerated. Before I go on, I just want to make one point, and absolutely 100%, the family was stressed out. I was missing in action most of the time. We didn't have cell phones back then, so no one really ever knew where I was. But I do want to say that, early in my life, as things happened in my life, we weren't a family that talked about anything. So I didn't know how to deal with anything that was going on internally, and so my coping mechanism was to run and to use drugs. And you're right, I sought out. I was attracted to that crowd. So everybody was stressed around the holidays, but I was mostly avoidant of my family early in my addiction and early in recovery.
I want to get to Renny in a second, but this is what we're here to talk about. When you began to get a handle on your recovery, when you were making those first steps, when did you feel you could reintroduce yourself to your family? Do you remember making a conscious decision? Okay, I'm gonna step back in that life. Do you remember that?
I never fully stepped back in. I have small bouts of interactions with my family. It's much better now, but I would say for quite a long time, I had very small intervals of contact. It's what I had to do. Family recovery was not as popular back over 30 years ago. The focus was on me and my addiction, right, sure, and my illness. So the family really didn't have coping mechanisms either.
And Renny, how about you? Those first steps back.
Coming out of the last treatment center that I was in, it took a little bit of time for my immediate family, she's now my wife, and my kids to accept me back into the house. I was couch surfing on my parents' couch for a while, but to let me back into the holidays and things like that, that was kind of more up to where I was at in my head. I had to be prepared for that. I wasn't necessarily ready for that right off the bat. I have a very supportive family, and they were waiting for me to come back. And that's, I had to really make sure that I was ready as well, because I didn't want to put myself or jeopardize the sobriety that I worked for to get into a place where I was going to lose it just like that. And that's what would have happened if I wasn't mentally or spiritually prepared for it. So,
well, that's really interesting. I'm going to ask you both about that as well. How do you now feel, and how did you feel in those early days about the holidays? I mean, you saw them coming, here they come again. Did you run from them, or what did you get out of it, Gloria? Was it a problem for you looking at the holidays?
What time period are we talking about now?
No, no. Early on, when you're still trying to get your feet
Oh,
underneath
I
you.
dreaded the holidays.
Yeah.
They were a very miserable, sad, lonely time for me. I really didn't know how to approach them. I'll tell you, I was very fortunate the first couple of years that I was in recovery. I didn't live right around I'm about an hour from my family, so it wasn't that easy for me to get to them. I relocated to the town where I went to treatment in Lancaster, and I got into service really, really early on, and that honestly takes me right through the holidays. It lifts my spirits. If you can get into the mindset that giving, and you're only going to receive if you give, and that's your time, that's your service. That is what hooked me right there. Is to get through the holidays was to perform good deeds.
Well, you used the magic word there, Gloria, and I want to ask Renny about it. That's dread. Dread. There's so many expectations associated with the holidays. I mean, the commercial aspect of it alone is enough to drive you insane. You're almost required to be joyful and happy, and if you don't feel it, that's even worse. So dread's the right word. How was it for you, Renny? Did you just go, "Oh, here they come again"?
Oh yeah, and in early sobriety for me, my first Christmas or holiday season, my family moved to Florida actually, and that's where I started with retreat. And my family, my brothers, my parents, they came down to us, so it was like this horde of family coming down. And what was I going to expect? Is it going to be the same as it was? And there was things that I didn't work out with my family yet, amends that needed to be made, and things of that nature. So I wasn't really prepared for it, and I expected the worst. And what I found was that if I just came in there knowing, and Gloria, you hit the nail on the head, service, right? I'm allowed to be with my family now. I get to do these things. These aren't things that are owed to me. They're not. So if I'm allowed to be there and have that aspect of it, it's so much easier. I make a turkey now. That's what I love to do. I love making a turkey, and that's okay. Feed people and serve people.
Yeah, I know that Gloria and I spoke prior to her coming here on the corner, and it was the first thing you mentioned was that here's how to integrate what this season's all about, and that's help somebody else. So service is key. That's a great tip all by itself. Renny, you mentioned something else that's interesting for people wondering, oh my God, how am I going to walk back in that house? And what's it going to be like? It helps, doesn't it, when you said you didn't know what to expect. It helps when you can manage your expectations, correct?
Well, I can't really, it's hard to manage them. What I have to understand is that whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I just have to be prepared to ask for help if I need to. That's really what I need to do. Because no matter what I do, the physicality, whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen. So I just need to be prepared and have the tools to get through those situations. And it's never as bad as I think. It's that fear of the unknown.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's what I meant by managing and having reasonable expectations, I think is what I meant. Renny Affoumado is our guest, along with Gloria Gallagher, here to talk about their sobriety. They're both wildly successful. They have been sober for many, many years. We congratulate them for that. They're talking about how they achieve that. A couple of things about what you guys are doing. Gloria, you are with the DDPA, correct, in Pennsylvania?
I'm with the PA Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs. We call it DDAP. It's not the most popular term, but
DDAP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you do with that?
I'm a drug and alcohol program representative. I monitor. I do quality assurance, and right now we're aligning providers with the ASAM, which is
Mhm.
American Society for Addiction Medicine criteria, another unpopular term to some. But yes, I've been in state government for over 25 years.
Yeah. And Renny, you are with our underwriting partner, Retreat Behavioral Health. You're working in the new Connecticut facility, correct?
I am. Yeah, we just opened a little over almost 2 years now, February, almost 2 years ago, in New Haven, Connecticut. And I am a shift administrator and a manager of the CA department, the clinical aid department, as well as I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah. Yeah, and the work they both do, incredibly important under any circumstances. But we've just passed some grim milestone this year with 100,000 deaths from drug overdoses. The game has changed dramatically. For those of you following it, relapse is something not to be surprised about, never has been. And it doesn't automatically mean defeat. It hasn't historically. It's a stumble, and you get back up and try to finish the race. Unfortunately, the dynamic has changed. And now that margin of error to pick yourself up and start again is vanishingly small, because fentanyl will kill you. And I only mention this because, well, first of all, the death toll is extraordinary. But again, to our theme about home and family for the holidays, how concerned were you in general during the holidays, even today, that you might be tempted to relapse? Is there anything that triggers you guys about the holidays that you worry about? Gloria?
Well, absolutely. In the beginning, yes, I was constantly concerned about returning to use, and I did not feel that I was like out of the woods, and I'm still not after all these years. Although I had a lot more of what we call recovery capital than I used to, but no, I was very, very vulnerable. And I needed to take every single precaution that I could to ensure that when I went home to visit family or any other type of event that came up that would cause me any type of angst, I needed to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Renny, how about you? What did you? Not only do you have to manage your anxieties and potential relapse triggers, but I would guess that when you go back into the family setting, it's making sure you're reading them correctly, right?
For sure. And, for me, alcohol is going to be around, drugs are going to be around. It's how I prepare myself that day and the steps that I take. I like to call them bookend meetings, for instance. I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not afraid to say that. I go to meetings before and after the holidays or during the holidays. I make sure that I talk to people in my program constantly. Like I said before, they're going to do whatever they're going to do. Family is a big trigger for me because there is a lot of history and a lot of issues that were in the past. And now, like I said before, also, I get to be here and do these things with my family. So if I have that positive mindset, it does help out a lot. Now, I can't say that if there's a bottle of tequila right in front of me, that's not going to trigger something. It will. But I also have the option today to remove myself from that situation. I don't have to sit at a table. I can move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it's so great. I appreciate so much you guys coming here and not making it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world to get back into the swing of this thing and be honest, as you have been, about the holidays, family, and maintaining sobriety. It's critically important. The holidays are every year. They're coming. We all have to get ready for them. And if you're in recovery, you have to do a little more work. That's like everything else, though. Renny, thanks so much. Gloria, thank you so much. We leave people with a couple of things you said, both of you, with regard to dealing with the holidays. and that is have a plan. As Renny says, make sure you're working your program. Make sure you have your phone number if you got to call somebody. And Gloria's advice about, well, help others, serve is a great thing to consider this time of the year. Folks, enjoy the holidays. I can say that with confidence that you will. And I really appreciate you joining us on the Behavioral Corner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And thank you all. You'll enjoy your holidays as well. We're here hanging through them. Behavioral Corner. Look for us wherever you find your podcasts, and follow us on Facebook, and you know the whole smear. I'm Steve Martirano. See you next time on the Behavioral Corner. Bye-bye.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.